Head to Macy's Backstage for finds you can't resist, deals you won't believe, and brands you love. And right now, new fall trends are arriving every week. So what's the season's big idea? Men's styles are not just for him anymore. Men's inspired looks for her are everywhere, and we're all over it. Plus, we've got lots of red to add a pop of color to your look. You never know what you'll find, but you'll always find something. We're all about everything hot for fall. For info and locations, visit Macy'sBackstage.com.
Blog Talk Radio.
What's up, good people out there, and welcome to another edition of Quick Slants, the show where we talk nothing but college football. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Devin McMillan, but I'm at the round table with the star of the show. We got Fred Perdue in the building. What up, Fred?
What's going on, man? This college football season is a quarter of the way over. I'm not sure if I'm liking it. As soon as it gets here, it just goes so quickly.
Yeah, it's a quarter of the way over, and, Mr. Franklin on my home state team, Penn State, seems to have lost a quarter of his mind, but, we'll save that for another time. Just referencing a game that they should have won, but whatever, man. Penn State wants to forever be owned by Ohio State, and be my guest. But it was an interesting week, Fred, in college football. We got a lot of stories here for you to pick apart. And like we always do, I'm going to pitch them to you, and you're going to knock them out of the park. There's so many of them. Once we get to I'm going to save a few of them for our pick 'em segment, and you can actually talk about them once we get to that segment. But we're going to start off right away with some of the first ones I want to ask you about. And down in Clemson, quarterback Trevor Lawrence, he has a neck strain, and he is questionable for this week's game. How's that looking for the Tigers?
Man, it's crazy how, we had a huge situation where Kelly Bryant, he gets benched, and he didn't do anything to deserve to be benched. He did everything he was supposed to do. He didn't get in trouble. He even voiced it. And then he decides to withdraw. I mean, you couldn't even put him on the roster. He didn't sit out. He said, adios, I'm gone. So you now, and by the way, the third-string quarterback also transferred before the season started. So you're really playing with like a super backup, a practice squad, college practice squad backup at this point. And Trevor Lawrence plays okay, but Syracuse kept up for a while. And then Trevor Lawrence took a good hit. And he didn't look, the lights were on. Nobody was home. I mean, it was bad. And I thought it was concussion-like symptoms, but it was really just a neck strain. Anytime you're talking about the head and the neck, we're always cautious. But Clemson kind of held on, and they found a way defensively. I don't know if that's going to be a thing going forward, but by all accounts, Dabo Swinney says that he's going to be fine. He should play. I think they'll run the ball a lot. It seemed to work. Travis Etienne, who I said would have a pretty good season in the preseason, they finally gave him some work, and, well, he gave Syracuse that work. Just saying, Syracuse, next time, put extra man in the box. You might stop the run.
Syracuse, you almost had it. You almost had it. All right, so let's go to Champions Row. Nick Saban, he's complaining a little bit about the new redshirt rule. In short, he said, and I quote, "This is not a good rule." What's the story there?
Well, when you have a star quarterback in Jalen Hurts who gave up his red shirt, which I didn't think would happen, because he could have sat and said, I'm not playing anymore. He could have pulled a Trevor Lawrence, but instead it seems like he wants to get better. He wants to be a better passer, maybe compete for the job next year. I don't know what this guy's doing at this point, because he is graduating at the end of December, so he does have a chance to go back for another season, and he can sit for an off season, or he can transfer and immediately start. But he wants to get better, and who knows? He's only one play. Unlike Kelly Bryant, where he's one play away, Jalen Hurts is actually one play away from anything crazy happening. I mean, we saw it in week 1. Tua Tagovailoa went down, and we could have saw some Jalen Hurts magic, but it wasn't to happen. So, but Nick Saban has a very interesting dynamic on his hands. I mean, Alabama's blowing everyone out in the first quarter, second quarter, and the only game that I thought would actually be worth something, Ole Miss pretty much didn't give them much despite having a real good offense. So they have some smooth sailing until maybe LSU, maybe Mississippi State, maybe Auburn. But when they're rolling right now, who's stopping these guys? And because of that, Tua Tagovailoa might not put up the Heisman numbers, but when you go 8 for 8, I mean that's good enough for me. And when you're putting 28 up in the first quarter, I mean it's a very nice problem to have, Nick Saban. But I think mainly it's the fact that a kid can. It used to be you had to, if you played in a game, you burned that red shirt. Now kids can decide by week, all the way up until the end of the season. If they haven't played in 4 games, if they haven't gotten to that 5th game by then, I mean, coaches can manipulate the system, and it's a sticky situation. I mean, what happens if you got a freshman that you don't want to really give a ton of time to, but you want to see what he looks like, and you haven't burned that red shirt yet by the bowl game? Well, you essentially can fit him red shirt, and you can give him all the way up until the bowl game, and still red shirt. And then he gets game reps and all of it. This is a weird rule. I don't like it either. It's like playing God in college football. I don't want anybody playing God in college football. Give him 4 years, and that's it.
Well, you don't even want college football itself, the NCAA playing God, because Art Browse and Baylor would beg to differ. Baylor was hit. They were hit with that dreaded lack of institutional control label when they were hit with a notice of allegations by the NCAA on Monday. What's going to happen here with Art Browse and the guys? What's your thought about this?
Well, you can pretty much expect Baylor to really not have a chance when it comes to the hammer getting dropped on. They are not going to have a chance. Whenever you have that dropped on you, especially when you're a lower tier school, I mean, they weren't a big name before now. I mean, you had a couple big name players come through, but they never really won anything. So now the only reason that you had a lot of this success was because of some of the things that were going on there. And typically that's how that works. You usually find some wrongdoing from schools that don't have the resources, and then all of a sudden guys just start pouring in and success starts for maybe 4 or 5 years. A lot of the improprieties that were going on there in Waco, especially for a Christian university, by the way, just throwing that out there.
Hey, they've been through their share of scandal before, especially on the basketball team.
Exactly. So for me, when I look at this, the NCAA could drop the hammer any time. And this program wasn't already a top-tier big name. We're going to win 10 games every year. Heck, we're talking about 5, 6, 7 wins at this point. And Matt Rhule, who came from Temple, is trying to turn the culture around. But when it starts up top with the president and the chancellor's all doing some really funky stuff, you can put perfume on you know what, but it's still going to stay.
All right, well, we'll be looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that, because there's really no title, no label that could be worse in the NCAA than lack of institutional control. It's really nothing worse that they can actually say about you. All right, so UMass football coach has been suspended for a week after comparing an officiating decision to rape. Now, I don't know what's going on in the mind of this guy, but in today's climate, and when I say today, I'm not even just talking about, like, current society. I'm talking about today. You look at the stuff that we have, going on in the past 2 weeks with Kavanaugh, that has something to do with the Supreme Court. Bill Cosby, who's one of the most recognizable faces that Hollywood has ever produced. Like, we have this stuff going on in the past 2 weeks, and he chooses to use these words? What's up with him, man?
To directly quote Mark Whipple, who, by the way, I've had a little experience with him. He was a former Miami Hurricane offensive coordinator. Thank God he's gone with that terrible offense he ran at Miami. Thank you. But he was quoted as saying to the media after they lost 52-48. That's a basketball score. But we had a chance there with 16 down, and they rape us. And he picks up the flag. The 61-year-old Whipple told reporters after the game, and I get what he was trying to say, and I hear kids say this all the time, but in today's climate, with the Me Too and all of this, you cannot say this. He said mugged later. You should have used mugged then. We know what you mean, and men know what you mean. But because people you're a public figure, you're the head football coach at not a major university, at least for football's sake, but you're a public figure, a head football coach at a Division I university. After a loss, you're frustrated, but you can't do it. You just can't do it. The suspension is warranted, but, it's just not a good look.
Can't do that in today's feminist society. I've made this mistake once, man. Not recently. Maybe about 5 years ago, and I tell this story all the time. I know I've told it on the War Room. I've told it in other places. So I'm about to leave New York. I'm checking out of a hotel in New York, and I'm about to drive all the way back home to Maryland. So it's about a good 3.5, 4-hour drive, right? So we're coming out of the hotel. We were driving, I think we were up there for a Knicks game. We were driving an SUV, and that's important to the story because they actually charge you more to park at hotels with an SUV than a regular car. So the valet brings us back the car. The parking rate at this hotel was $75 per night, and that didn't give you, valet was your only choice. And that didn't give you in-and-out privileges. So basically, once you parked it, we had to find other transportation to get around New York rather than pay $75 every time we go in and out of this garage. So I tweet. This is about, like I said, about 4 or 5 years ago. I tweet as we are putting our bags and stuff in the car. Man, $75 to park at a New York hotel. This is consumer rape. Man, let me tell you this, Fred. I'm driving home, like I said, about 4 hours. I had no clue that I was being dragged on Twitter by women for the past 4 hours. I'm nearing home, and Jimmy, shout out to Jimmy from the War Room, he calls me like, yo, like, what's going on? Like, you see what's going on Twitter? I'm like, no, what you talking about? He's like, man, go look at Twitter. For 4 hours, Fred, I was getting dragged for saying this hotel was it was like consumer rape. So yeah, I've learned my lesson with that, and I'm pretty sure Mark Whipple's going to learn his lesson this time around. And like I said, the climate in which he's saying it in, I mean, the feminist movement has been going on for a while. But the exact climate that we're in now with the Me Too and the big names that are, in the spotlight for this kind of stuff, come on, man. There's no worse time to say it than now. So, fellas, lesson, word to the wise, clean up your vocabulary. Don't say anything that can be misconstrued. Keep calm. Stay cool. All right, that's my PSA for the day, man. All right, so now that my PSA is over, let's go to our Pick'em segment. Like I said, I have some stuff to ask you about during the Pick'em segment, but we'll get to some of that stuff as the games go on. So let's start off with number 19, Texas at 4-1, going to see number 7, Oklahoma, who's currently 5-0, and you always know every week I tell you this is one of my favorite matchups because it's two ranked teams going at it. So quickly before you do that, Tim Beck for Texas. What's going on? He's expected to be discharged from the hospital. What's going on with that, and what do you see? How do you see this game playing out?
Man, anytime you have a coach being in the hospital for any reason, it's very surprising. But even more, he's in the hospital. He thought he was going to be okay, but he had to have some surgery on an elbow. Had an infection in it. That's never good. Questionable if he'll coach in a game after something like that. But you have to take care of yourself, coach. I mean, I know football's important. These kids and your job is important, especially when you're 4-1. Believe it or not, Texas is 4-1. This game could decide the Big 12, but you got to take care of yourself.
All right. Let's go to Maryland, 3-1, versus the number 15 Michigan Wolverines. We know about what happened at Maryland prior to the season, but they've been informed of a report states that they've been informed of possible toxic football culture long before the death of Jordan McNair. So what's your thoughts on that, and what's your thoughts on this game?
Oh man, when I look at how, first off with Maryland, when I look at how this school just is going, they're getting just drugs, literally, and I don't mean that in a bad way. So don't put me on Twitter, don't at me. But when I look at how this is, you have parents writing long letters telling us about everything that has been going on with this institution. DJ Durkin not looking all that great. It just doesn't look good when you have this many issues. At some point, the NCAA is going to get involved. When the NCAA gets involved, especially with the school that's not all that great, despite being 3-1. This Maryland team is. I'm still not sure if they're. I really don't think they're great. But you're going to see a lot of. You're going to see. It's going to when things hit the fan. This could be ugly down the road. DJ Durkin may have to step down because you can't have this kind of culture at a school and you're not winning. You're not winning on a consistent basis enough. You're not Ohio State where you can just say whatever you want and you can backtrack and you have multiple national titles.
You're not successful enough for them to sweep it under the rug for you.
Yeah. Maybe back in the 90s you could say that about their basketball team, but not the football team. Definitely not. As far as this game is concerned, Michigan didn't look good against Northwestern, who gave them all kinds of fits. Shea Patterson had to will his team back to victory without Rashawn Gary, who is one of the top prospects going into the NFL draft. He's gone in 3 years. Guys, just give it up. It's over with. But he's one of the best.
He's questionable for this game, right?
Exactly. Yeah, he's questionable for this game as well. And if he's not on the field, he's a complete game changer because he can play inside the 3-tech. He can also play outside at that defensive end spot. He's going to be that guy who's so versatile that he can do anything you need him to do. As far as a pass rusher, a guy that stops the run, he's athletic, and he's a smart kid. So Michigan needs him on that defensive line to get after this Maryland offense. But the defense is their calling card, and when they're getting scored on early and often, they had 17 points dropped on them so quickly. I flipped to the game against Northwestern early, and I'm like, what? What happened? You guys got 17 dropped on you. Usually you guys don't get 17 dropped on you in the whole game. You got 17 dropped on you in the first half. And Jim Harbaugh, I don't want to say he's on the hot seat, but he might be on the hot seat despite being 4-1 because this. You know how every 4-1 isn't made equal? Like, it's not a convincing 4-1. It's just you haven't played anybody worth losing to yet. That's how I feel about this Michigan team. And offensively, they're slowly coming around. Higdon at running back is a really good back. But Shea Patterson's a really good quarterback. I saw a lot of things I like from him from an NFL standpoint. But this isn't the NFL. You got to go win games for this team right now to keep them relevant and possibly have a chance at the end of the season to get to – because Ohio State is the gold standard, and you have to play them. Everything goes through them. So until you beat them, you don't have anything to stand on. So this team needs to get better on both sides of the ball. And right now, I just don't see it.
All right. And what's your thoughts on Iowa State versus number 25, Oklahoma State? This one seems pretty easy.
Oh, not so fast, because this Iowa State team, despite being 1-3, is always pesky. For whatever reason, they find ways to make teams' lives just a living hell. When I look at Cornelius at Oklahoma State, 12 touchdowns to 5 picks, got to cut down on the turnovers, but Justice Hill, talked about him in the offseason, 500 yards, a little bit almost 577 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's a beast. He's going to be the catalyst for this offense. They are going to have to ride him. They are a 10-point favorite in this game. Defense just doesn't get played in this conference. I don't expect any different. This team's giving up almost 400 yards. But they're an explosive bunch. Last 5 games, they've won 4 of the last 5, but they've only really beaten one real team, and that's Boise State. They beat them 44-21. Kansas dropped 28 points on them last week in a loss. So that's not good. On the other end of things, this Iowa State team, again, pesky, lost to TCU by 3 points, lost to Oklahoma by 10 points, lost to Iowa by 10 points. They're not getting blown out. They're just losing close games. So you can tell there's something there. It's just the talent level in college football. Once you get to a certain point, certain guys, you have dudes. And when you have dudes, that's the difference between college and the NFL. In the NFL, you can scheme around things. But in college, if you just have dudes, that's what matters.
Okay. All right, we got San Diego State versus Boise State.
Boise State at 3-1 with that lone loss coming through the aforementioned Cowboys of Oklahoma State. Have a very good offense. San Diego State 3-1. They're not a terrible team in their own right. I've picked against them a couple times and I've been wrong. So I'm not discounting this one, but I think Boise State offensively is going to be able to withstand a lot of the problems that most teams would get from a San Diego State-led team. Brett Rippon is pretty good. He's pretty good. If you've heard the last name before, Washington professional football team, that's the nephew. He's going to be throwing all over the yard. Expect a ton of offense. Ryan Harsin, by the way, said that he now is finally comfortable with being the head coach of this team after a few years, as well as being with the offensive coordinator years before now. But being a head coach in college football, it takes time to finally get that experience, get all the jitters out. Sometimes, like a good quarterback, it may take a couple years to get to really get rolling in that offense where it's just comfortable and just you're reacting more than you're thinking. I think he's at that point now, and now he has his fingerprints all over this Boise State team. It's kind of in the same way that Chris Peterson did when he was there at Boise State. Boise State has a good chance of really making some noise if they can just continue with it.
All right, we got a top 25 alert. Woo, woo. Making my own sound bites here. We got number 5, LSU versus number 22, Florida.
If you told me LSU would be in the top 5 at this point of the season, I'd tell you were crazy. Joe Burrow's not a great quarterback, but he's doing enough, beating up on an Ole Miss team that I thought had a chance to at least keep up with teams offensively with the weapons that they had. But those guys are just beating people down. The defense on that for those Tigers, Greedy Williams on the outside at corner, Devin White at the middle backer spot. Those guys are just really being dominant. On the other side, Florida, I said it last week, and I went against everything I said in that game against Mississippi State. I said Dan Mullen, he built that Mississippi State team. He knows them inside and out. That is the one thing in college football. If you have a good coach and you have a pretty big-name school like that, and you kind of go to another school and you play that your former team, you have a little bit of an advantage because you know those players in and out. And I still went against this rule I have about taking a coach over the team. and I was wrong. Dan Mullen, I'm gonna learn. I'm never gonna learn. But Florida defensively looks good. Offensively, Felipe Franks looks like he's showing a little bit more. I'm not a fan of this offense. It still doesn't move enough. It doesn't put enough points on the board. I'm gonna say I don't give a lot of nuggets. I usually give my Alabama win. We know how that feels. You know what that game's like. It's always an Alabama win. But I'm gonna pick LSU to win this one on the road in Gainesville. I don't give picks often, but every now and then I give a little bit of a nugget. So LSU on the road, keeping this streak going. The defense, I just think the defense is going to suffocate Florida's offense.
All right, I hope y'all paying attention out there. Next up, we got Arizona State versus number 21, Colorado.
Colorado gave a beatdown last week, and Arizona State really, after that big win against Michigan State a few weeks ago, they've been kind of up and down. This Colorado team is really moving the ball up and down the field on people, and unexpectedly really good. 4-0 to start the season, in the top 25. Nice place to be right now. We're kind of finally seeing where some of the separation is going to come in these conferences as teams are building their resume. This is going to probably be a nice shootout. Manny Wilkins, one of the best quarterbacks in the country as far as college quarterbacks are concerned. No game is out of reach with him at the helm. And by the way, Herm Edwards, you played to win the game. Come on, coach. Get these guys right.
All right. So next up, let's see. We got Kentucky versus Texas A&M. But before you got into the game, I wanted to ask you about Jimbo Fisher, who's in the news. He's defending himself for grabbing a Texas A&M player's face mask. So Jimbo taking it back to the good old days when coaches put their hands on you. What's your thoughts?
See, I come from the old school, and I know what that's like. I know I've seen it more times than I probably like to. Jimbo's an old school coach. He's getting in frustration. We all know he did it, but in today's climate where players have more power, more control, and there's a camera on you at all times, you got to keep your hands to yourself, coach. Because if one of these players ever decides to want to swing on you, it's over with.
It's nothing you're going to be able to do, Big Jim.
Yeah, exactly. So you can't grab him. And I get it. Player makes a mistake. You grab him by the face mask. You're pissed off because he's killing his football team, but you got to keep your hands to yourself. I don't have a problem with it because he wasn't abusive to him. I mean, he grabbed the face mask a little and then pushed the guy in the chest. I'm opposed to it. Football is a bit of a violent game, a strong game. It's nothing personal. Every coach, every player will always tell you that. It's just in the heat of the moment. I've seen the way I used to see Nick Saban go off on Lane Kiffin. I always thought those two would come to blows every game, and it never happened. But I know some of the words that were done and some of the stories I've heard about Nick Saban and what. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm not trying to draft this on nobody. I'm going to leave that alone. But you kind of, it's nothing personal. It's nothing personal.
All right. So what's your thought on the game? Number 13, Kentucky versus Texas A&M.
Texas A&M, after a close loss to Clemson, it just looks like this team is kind of coming back to what they really are. They're a 500 football team. They have a pretty explosive offense, a pretty decent defensive line, nothing spectacular. This is not your Johnny Manziel-led team from years ago. This team is a Jimbo Fisher-led team that will get better over time. Kellen Mond is a really good quarterback. He'll have his chance in a few years, maybe next year, as he gets more acclimated to this offense. Travion Williams is a really, really good running back. He's averaging 5.8 yards a carry, and he has 6 touchdowns. He's going to be the guy in this offense that makes things go because you have to trust your running game. Don't make Kellen Mond just have to win the game for you. He's 89 of 148 for 1,200 yards. But he has 7 touchdowns to 4 picks. You got to cut down on the turnovers. On the other side of things, Terry Wilson at Kentucky has really been a godsend for them. 62 of 93 for 595 yards, 2 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, but he's more of a running quarterback. They want to run the football with Benny Snell, who is right now just under 6.5 yards a carry. He has 8 touchdowns. He's everything to this offense. Texas A&M is a 6-point favorite. I'm not willing to give them that much. Texas A&M gives up about 350 yards a game. This Kentucky defense is a little bit better than that, only giving up about 285 yards a game. What I want to see from this Texas A&M team is, can they throw the ball when they want to? This Kentucky team is battle tested, by the way, beating South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Florida in their last 4. And those games were not really all that close. Beating Florida by 11 points. This same Mississippi State team that also lost to Florida, they blew them out from 28-7. And South Carolina, who I thought would be a lot better, they beat them by 14. So I got a good feeling this Kentucky football team might be feeling the mojo from maybe Calipari's giving a little bit of his magic to the football team. Just saying.
Alrighty. Let's go to UAB versus Louisiana Tech. They're both coming in at 3-1.
UAB I haven't really had a chance to see UAB, but I have had a chance to see Louisiana Tech. And we all know who Lou Holtz is. His son, Skip Holtz, is running the show there, and that high-powered offense is going to be going up and down the field on these guys. Let's just say I expect a ton of points from Louisiana Tech. Why can't we get Miami, Florida State here instead? Just saying, better mark the matchup. Come on, guys. We better.
No doubt. All right, we got the number 8 Auburn Tigers and the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Auburn comes in at 4-1, Mississippi State at 3-2.
The 2 most disappointing teams in the SEC so far for me. Auburn, you're a top 10 team, but I think you're a fraud. And Mississippi State, you're 3-2, and you are exactly what we thought you were. The Bulldogs are who we thought they were. Nick Fitzgerald, pretty good quarterback. Jarrett Stidham, he had a lot of hype coming into the season. I haven't seen what many see. He has a decent arm, but I'm not willing to bet my life on him. This is going to be a defensive matchup. Jarrett Stidham, by the way, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's 82 of 130 for 963. On the other end, Nick Fitzgerald, 640 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. And we're 5 games in. We need to maybe jump the offense up a little bit. For me, this is going to be a tight game, a defensive game. Auburn is on the road, so this is going to be a tough one for them. Those cowbells are going to be ringing, this game may help determine because neither team has played Alabama yet, neither team has played LSU yet, so this is going to be tough. I'm sorry, actually, Auburn has already lost to LSU, but you can still play for the 3-way tie, and if you beat Alabama, all bets are off. So Auburn has a lot to play for right now.
All right, we have top 25 matchup alert. We got number 6 Notre Dame, undefeated Notre Dame at 5-0, visiting number 24 Virginia Tech Hokies, who are currently sitting at 3-1. And also understand, Fred, that there's going to be something big, shiny, and bronze. Well, I guess bronze and shiny don't really mix, but big and bronze unveiled at Virginia Tech Stadium prior to the game.
Yes, Frank Beamer, he's getting his statue. It took him long enough. I mean, this man should have had a statue 10 years ago. He was his head coach for dang near my whole lifetime. I mean, this is long. This is a long time coming. I wasn't sure what this team would be after losing on the road to Old Dominion, having 49 points dropped on you, having your star quarterback injured, and you find a way to knock off number 22 Duke and stay in the ACC Coastal race. Knocking those guys off, you have Miami, and that's it. If it's going to come down to a game down in South Florida, and that's going to actually it's going to be in Blacksburg this year. It's going to be a key game at the end of the season. So as long as these two teams keep winning, that's what I expect to happen. But as far as this game is concerned, you have a Notre Dame team that doesn't necessarily throw the ball well, but they run the ball really well. Ian Book came in a couple weeks ago and sparked his offense after Brandon Wimbush was a complete bust. We thought he could throw the football. He got better passer. Not really. Ian Book is 52 of 70 in limited play over the last couple games, 616 yards, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. I really want to see this Notre Dame team keep growing as an offense. They're going no huddle, and that's interesting to see how Brian Kelly keeps just doing different things with their offense. Also, Notre Dame is the one school because they're independent. They don't have a conference, but technically they do have a conference. They have like 1 foot in the ACC just for the sake of the playoff system. They have to play 5 ACC teams every year to keep that kind of 1 foot in. And right now, if the playoffs were to happen today, they're on the outside looking in for me, but they have a little bit of room to go. Ian Book might put them over the top because he can throw the football, and that's the one thing Notre Dame has lacked over the last probably decade. They have not had a quarterback who could just actually throw the football, and now they have that. So I expect different. I expect some things to happen on the offensive end. They're going to have to score points because their defense is giving up 340 yards a game. Although as good old Shay Sharp says, yards don't lose your games, points do, and they're only allowing 18 points a game. So we'll see how that works out for them. Completely obliterating Stanford. Also a close win against Michigan. Haven't really played anybody else. Played Vanderbilt really close. Blew out Wake Forest, but all of those games also had Brandon Wimbush. So Ian Book, you get to write your own legacy. Let's see what you do with it.
All right. So earlier you spoke of Florida. You also spoke of the ACC while you were talking about Notre Dame. We're going to Florida. We're going to the ACC, and we're going to a rivalry. We're giving you guys a bonus game here, and we're going to talk a little bit about FSU versus the U. What's up, Fred?
This game has been on my radar. I tried everything I could to get tickets to it. It's not happening, but guess what? This is gonna be the game of the week for me. We already know where my allegiances lie. This isn't in the pick'em, but Florida State 3-2 last week gave away. Louisville had this team beat. I don't care if you're an 8-year-old playing Madden. I don't care if you coach high school football. I don't care if you coach college. I definitely don't care if you coach in the NFL because we all know if I told you there's a minute 50, your opponent has one timeout. What do you do? It's 3rd and short. What do? You run the football. If you get a first down, what does any coach tell you to do? Hold on to the football, stand down. You get the first down, you get out of bounds. Okay, cool. Keep the clock running, run the ball again. We run the ball twice, then we call play action. It works. You get out of bounds. Why are we running out of bounds? And then on 1st and 10, with about a minute 30, our young, inexperienced quarterback gets a play call. I don't know what the play call was, but he stares down his tight end and he throws the ball straight to a Florida State defender who, by the way, picks it off, gives Florida State life. Florida State walks right down the field and scores a touchdown in a game that should have not even been in question. Florida State should be 2-3 with their heads buried in the sand with no momentum. This game should not even be a question for Miami, but now you have Florida State with a little bit of false confidence in their little red bag for when they get turnovers. Stop copying Big Brother. Come on. On the other side, Miami last week on Thursday, they completely destroyed North Carolina. 47 to 10, if I remember correctly. And there was a quarterback change. You have Malik Rozier, who has just been not good at all since probably last year. He was a product of more of the offense, and the team was a product of him. We always talk about tractor trailer. Well, he's a trailer. He needs a ton of weapons to make him look great, and he's still only a 50% completion guy. Well, in steps N'Kosi Perry, redshirt freshman. He's one of the top dual threat quarterbacks coming out of high school, among the likes of Kellen Mond, also Tua Tagovailoa. So he's in that same class. So he comes in and immediately sparks the offense. The turnover chain is in full effect, and he finally gets some playing time against FIU. But now North Carolina is a bit of a different beast because that team had 13 starters suspended. So these guys come back. Miami has a little bit of a problem in the first half, but Miami finds a way. It put up 47 points. The offense looks pretty good. He's had a couple bad throws. He's a freshman. Get over it. It's going to happen. So I'm giving my pick for this one. I think Miami's going to win it close. Florida State, they still have problems up front on the offensive line. I'm not worried about the defense. That defense is solid. But offensively, Willie Taggart is bringing his Gulf Coast offense, this no-huddle spread offense to the team. And DeAndre Francois, he's a decent quarterback, but he's so gun-shy from over the years. Teams are just hitting him, and he's not getting any protection. Look at every game they played this season. He has no protection against anybody, and he's either scrambling for his life, throwing the ball in the dirt, or throwing bad passes. When he gets in a rhythm in a 2-minute offense and he doesn't have to think, he can react, things look great for him. But you can't run a 2-minute offense all game long. Make the game easy for him, he can make plays. If this game is close at halftime, all bets are off. Florida State has a chance. But if the turnover chain comes out early and often, he throws a couple picks, and that Miami defense gets going like I think they can, look out. Jaquan Johnson, free safety, All-American, all of those accolades. He's questionable. He had a hamstring injury a couple weeks ago. He's been nursing that. He may come back. He may not. He may be limited. Also, Amon Richards, wide receiver, he banged his knee up against LSU. We haven't seen him since, but Jeff Thomas has been there to kind of pick up the slack, and you have guys like Brian Hightower also picking up the slack, DJ Dallas at running back, Travis Homer at running back. Brevin Jordan's the freshman tight end you want to really watch for Miami. And for all of you Florida State fans or anybody just loves the running game, Cam Akers at Florida State was the number one running back coming out of high school. Last year, he really made plays in his freshman season. He's been making big plays when they matter for Florida State. I'm still taking the Canes. 28-24, late game surge by the Canes to win it on defense.
All right, there's a pick for you if you're paying attention, and there you have it. That is our picks, our pick'em segment.
Before you leave that, Miami is a 12.5-point favorite, which is the largest margin since like 1998.
Wow. All right, like I was saying, that was our pick'em segment. So if you're in our pick'em group, use that analysis as you will. Fred, let everybody know where you're going to be on Saturday when all these games are going down.
You can check me out on Twitter, Fred Purdue CFB. I'll be checking out a lot of different games, not just the ones we talked about, but all over the country. Of course I'm catching Alabama. Of course I'll catch a little Ohio State. At 3:30, I'm locked in at Miami, Florida State. Throughout the day, I'm locked in from college game day all the way until Pac-12 after dark. So catch me on Twitter, Fred Purdue CFB, and we can talk some college football.
All right, and you can catch me at DevMacWR Sports or on the War Room Sports Twitter at War Room Sports, the War Room Sports Facebook page, and the Game Time, War Room Sports Game Time group in the GroupMe app. You can check everything we're doing out at warroomsports.com. From there, you can get to our YouTube page where you can check out archive episodes of Quick Slants. And if you're an NFL fan, you can check out Cover 2 with McMillan and Purdue as well. And, of course, the flagship show, The War Room. So just go to warroomsports.com. Check it all out. We'll be back with you guys next week. For Fred, this is Devin. This has been another episode of Quick Slants. Don't accept mediocrity. Be steadfast in the war against ignorance. And we'll see you chumps on top. Peace.
War Room Sports. www.warroomsports.com. What? Ain't no more to it.
Sally Beauty's new all-in-one hair color kits make it easy to color your hair at home. Get everything you need to color for beautifully radiant results. Loved by professionals, open to everyone. Sally Beauty.